Good afternoon. I guess we're still in the afternoon, aren't we? I'm sure we're going to have a few people. I'll get my right level here. Is that about right? Yeah, okay. I'm sure we're going to have a few people come in here. I think we actually have our commander. You'll have a seat for you up here when you're ready. I'm Supervisor Glenn Church, and thank you for coming here today. Last year, I held just about a town hall a month around different communities, and I think some of you may have been at the one we had in over at Hartnell last year. So got a little bigger. Figured we'd have meeting a few more people, but I think the crowd's even a little smaller this year. So maybe that means either people are happy with what they're getting, or they're going to be coming in later. So I assume some will probably be coming in later. And what I would like to really do the same format I had last year. Is just a little bit of brief introductions, and then really take questions from folks. That's really what it's about. Not us to be speaking up here so much, but I do want to introduce everybody here. And we have over here is our Director Randy Ishii, who handles public works, parks, and facilities for the county. Our guest star here, Captain Ian Troxel from the CHP. He's always a really good speaker. Todd Muck from TAMSI. Joey Banuelos from the Sheriff's Department. A couple of our North County Fire, Chief Mendoza and Jess Cortez. We also have literature in the back from the CHP with Jessica is back there on the table, so please feel free to take some. I also want to, I don't even know if I need this, huh? Do I need it? Do I speak? I do, okay. Sorry, I just keep pulling it up a little higher, so if it starts getting a little too loud and reverberating, just give me the hands down. Appreciate that. I also want to point out that my office puts out a newsletter every month. We kind of recap things going on around in the district, important issues for the district. You can sign up back there by sending an email to our office, for example, or contact my office, or there's some information in the back, and I urge you to do that. We've grown up to a pretty good sized list, and it's one of the best ways I know to communicate with everybody. So we did have a few questions that were sent in ahead of time, and I usually don't do these, but I'm making a good exception here for Oak Hills, and I kind of want to open it up with addressing some of these questions. And we have a few answers to them, and some of the other officials up here will answer some of them too. So the first question we had, and this was, did any agency independently test and verify the deadly gas plume models at the BASS facilities, which is the battery facility? And what assumptions, such as wind direction, speed, air temperature, structure, et cetera, were used for those tests? So this was presented to the environmental health in the county. We don't have environmental health here today, but the answer came from Rick Encarnacion, who's in charge of environmental health. And Rick's answer was, the public's concern is understandable, and there is much that we can do to ensure safety. We are not asking for any alternative models at this time, as it meets the needs for planning and oversight. We have open communication lines with Vistra and are following up with any changes in their operation. I am not aware of any new laws being proposed. However, please let me know that please know that we are ready to enforce as needed. The topic of the batteries has become a high priority for many first responders and safety regulators, and more information is coming out as direct agencies communicate with each other. I don't know if anybody here wants to add anything to that, but we can always come back to the question too. Another question, and this we got from Public Works. I have an answer to, but I'm going to pass it to you, Randy, to answer. Actually, is what's the status of the CHP? I don't know why we're. Let me see. Well, what's the status of the CHP increasing presence enforcement of laws on speeding westbound Highway 156 traffic between Oak Hills Drive and Cathedral Oak Road? Sorry, we should pass that to the CHP. All right.
Mic is live. Yep. All right. Do I need to use this? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Because I hate holding onto a microphone. It just feels weird, looks weird. I don't know. I don't do it well with a microphone in my hand. First and foremost, I'm Ian Troxel. I am your CHP commander here in Monterey. I live locally in Marina. I have 2 little kids that go to school. My wife works. So I feel all the things, right? All the things about traffic that you are concerned about definitely concern me about my family and all that stuff. So I know you have concerns about speed on 156, commuters breaking through Oak Hills and doing what they're not supposed to be doing as far as speeding and things like that, right? And the question is what we are doing as far as enforcement goes, right? Well, we're not short of writing tickets, I'll tell you that. Right? So we're writing speeding tickets, and oftentimes, unfortunately, sometimes that means residents get cited too, because you run a stop sign and there's the CHP. I haven't seen them for years, but there they are. It happens that way. It just does sometimes. But actually, we are getting a lot of folks that are using some of these side streets and speeding. Right? I mean, that's kind of what we can do. We can look at trying to mitigate some other things. Using task force funds to kind of saturate areas. And one of those things that we've done is worked with the Office of Traffic Safety and acquired about 2,700 hours of grant overtime. Right? So we wrote a grant, got about 2,700 hours, and we can deploy officers in an overtime status on the state routes to mitigate some of these issues. Other than that, it's just kind of that in-presence, in-view patrol. Now, what you can do, what I would really appreciate, is follow a lot of our social media. That's kind of where we're at these days. I was never a social media guy. I'm still trying not to be, but I'm forced into it because that's the realm that we are, right? So we have a Facebook page at CHP Monterey. We've got the Twitter, now it's X. We're on Instagram. But what really works is when you come into that messenger on Facebook and say, hey, this is the time, this is the place. And everybody's got a cell phone these days, right? You got a cell phone, break it out and take a picture of a car. I saw this car driving through my neighborhood, and just send it through that messenger, right? And then we can deploy that out almost instantaneously to the officers that are working that beat or that are assigned to that beat that day. So it's good and it's bad, right? I mean, we're kind of getting into this whole digital realm, and if we use it the way it needs to be, then it's something that you can do. The other thing is you can just go old school, right? Just like you're going to call, a defense attorney, that's what it's going to sound like, 770-8000. You remember those old commercials? They come up there and dial, call Phil, 770-8000. So call the CHP, 770-8000. That's the old school way of doing it, 770-8000. That's the 831 code. And give us a call and just say, hey, this is what's happening. These are the times that things are happening, right? You guys live in your communities and you know. I can only get so many officers out at one. You're talking 3,000 square miles, right? So there's only so much personnel we can put out there to these areas. But you can be proactive, call that number and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. You can get on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, and just call. So that's that. Do I take questions?
Maybe after we're done with questions.
All right.
So I'll
be here for your questions.
How did I get Public Works drawn into this? Because I looked at the answer before I fully read the question, and we actually have an answer from somebody in Public Works who's Enrique Saavedra, who's actually one of the deputies under Randy, and he was just kind of adding to this issue with the. Do I? Okay, I'm trying to get this adjusted right. Is that better that way? I can adjust it, don't worry. Okay. We're experimenting with this a little bit, so you're all a little bit of guinea pigs today. I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay now? Okay, great. But please, if you don't hear me, speak up. So this answer was actually regarding some of the radar signs out there, and he just wanted to report that our contractor has completed all the work to repair the westbound radar speed feedback signs along State Route 156. Now the 2 radar feedback signs along State Route 156 are in working order. So that's where that came from. And now our next question is going to be, The status of our efforts to get the westbound acceleration merging lanes at Oak Hills Drive and Cathedral Oaks extended to make it safer to get on Highway 156. This is something I've raised a little bit with TAMZ and I guess Public Works, or either one of you want to handle this?
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm not even gonna mess with that. There you go.
Okay, is the sound check? Everybody hear me all right? Very good, thank you very much. So as introduced, I'm Randy Ishii. I'm the Director of Public Works, Facilities and Parks. And there's oftentimes a lot of overlap of work that we do at the county with the planning side of the county, known as Housing and Community Development. And I mention that because this issue with Oak Hills and the westerly approach, the easterly approach going the westerly direction on 156 has been a long, challenging one. By way of some context, whenever you see a route shield where it says a number like 156, 152, 101, more often than not, that's one of the state of California's owned and managed and maintained facilities, Caltrans. If you see a road that has a street name sign that has a brown colored background, then generally, more often than not, it will be a county maintained road, and that's what our hardworking staff do out of the Prunedale yard and the other yards that we have, as well as our engineering staff. And then when you get into the cities, oftentimes you'll see either a green background or some other color, and those are roads that are maintained by that particular city jurisdiction. This is a unique confluence between the county and county roads, Cathedral Oak, for example, and 156 itself. When we look at the documented record of when Oak Hills was first created, there were a lot of different things, a lot of different traffic volumes, a lot of different traffic trip generation that was analyzed and was the then standard for what was expected at that point in time. I believe the subdivision dates back to the mid to early 1970s. So 156 and the traffic that was out there, very different than what we have today. That's grown over time and through various collaborative efforts amongst the Transportation Agency of Monterey County, or TAMC, which evaluates the county from a holistic regional basis, and Caltrans looking at their infrastructure and the county looking at the county roads. Various studies and iterations have been done over time, and one of those included breaking 156 into 3 separate phases. I don't want to speak too much on this one, but if you like, Todd, I can defer to you on that. But basically, there's 3 different phases on there. One of the ideas was to do a 4-laning of 156, which included the frontage of the Oak Hill subdivision. Those are very expensive ventures and are going to take a lot of time to perform and do. And already, the county and the county partners have been working towards trying to at least get the first phase of this multi-year, multi-million-dollar effort underway. Where that leaves us is a challenge that we've had with Oak Hills and Caltrans' facility for a number of years. We've talked with Caltrans over the years about doing a traffic signal. We've talked about acceleration lanes or auxiliary lanes with them. And as we go through that, and as this has been brought up once more, we engage with the Caltrans partners, and an underlying traffic engineering study needs to support the need for this auxiliary lane. So once we get beyond the study phase, which we're barely in concept phase and early on in discussions, we'll then need to talk about the next challenge, which is funding for an auxiliary lane or acceleration lane. There are those that ask where their gas tax dollars are going when they pay at the pump. And as I hand the mic over to my counterpart, Todd Muck, who is the executive director in charge of all the TAMC, when we look at the gas taxes that come into the county, it's based off of an equation based on population, road miles, amongst other factors. And this county alone, Monterey County, has 1,260 miles of county-maintained roads. As has been pointed out by the media and others, I am oft found saying, if you took each of those roads and stretched them end on end with each other, that'll get you 1/3 of the way across the United States. With that, most of the funding we get is from the pay at the pump, the gas tax, in order to rehabilitate those roads. Those pay for the maintenance crews and their time, salaries and benefits, pays for our engineers, pays for our engineering contractors, and then Thankfully, back in 2016, you all had painfully voted upon yourselves a self-help tax known as Measure X, and that in no small part was led by TAMC as well as the electeds of that point in time. And that has helped out tremendously with the various efforts that we have with roads. For those who travel to the peninsula, you'll see that the county recently repaved Harkins Road and Hunter Lane, which were Measure X campaign initiatives of the time. We have various parts of Old Stage Road in the South County that we're gradually chipping away at. And that was also Measure X campaign initiative. And another portion that we have on our capital improvement plan is Elkhorn Road, and we will be progressing on that one over the course of this next fiscal year. But there's a lot of needs in the county. Those are some of the milestone projects that we have. We're going to continue working on that, and we have other plans in the queue. But so that I do not digress from the topic of the auxiliary lane, I'd like to look to Todd if there's anything further. Todd, you'd like to add?
Thanks, Randy. Thank you, Randy. As Randy said, my name is Todd Muck. I'm the Executive Director at the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. And we do, our role is a more regional, holistic look at regional transportation, including roads, freeways, bus transit, rail, bike and ped, all sorts of modes. When it comes to, one of the main things we do is work with the different jurisdictions, the county and each of the 12 incorporated cities in Monterey County, and then with Monterey Salinas Transit and with Caltrans on various projects. So when it comes with a situation like Oak Hills and the acceleration lane, we're really a support role for the county as it's an unincorporated area and help the county get through the process of working with Caltrans, which is a state agency. So through the years, this has been an issue that we've kind of thought we were going to resolve with the bigger project, and now we're realizing that the bigger project is farther away, and it's time to look at this in the smaller project with the auxiliary lane. So we'll need to be working with the county through the Caltrans process for us to be building something on the state highway system. And that's a quite an extensive process to get through, but we'll be kicking it off and find out what level of analysis the state's going to require before we can do the engineering, and then find out how much it costs, and then figure out how to get the money for that. So that's essentially where we're at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think I want to kind of go through the questions, and then everybody will be able to pick them up and address these at this point. So the other question is going to go to you too, and that is basically the status of the roundabouts.
Sure. So by roundabouts, you mean the new interchange at Castroville Boulevard and 156. And the roundabouts are a component of the interchange project. The point of the project is removing the signal with the new interchange so that there's safety improvements and eliminating some of the rear-end crashes that happen when people don't expect to come across a signal on a state highway system. The project was scheduled to get its final construction allocation in June, and we had a major risk issue, which was Pacific Gas and Electric and the gas transmission line and the electrical transmission lines that are in the area. We had over 18 months, over a year of silence from Pacific Gas and Electric and not responding to the utility inquiries. And then relatively last minute, they started engaging, and the cost to move the gas line particularly was well in excess of what the Caltrans estimate was. So we're having to regroup a little bit. The original estimate was for the project to start construction in 2025 and or the end of 2024, and it's looking at to be about a year delay. We're going to have to go back to the state and request additional grant money to meet that cost difference for the project. So we're working with Caltrans on grant application this summer to request that additional funding. We've gotten fairly strong positive feedback from the state agency that administers those grants, and of course we won't know until we go through the process and we're actually awarded funds. But they're more encouraging than normal as far as the likelihood of us being successful for the project. So again, we're looking at approximately a year delay of when we thought it was going to start construction, and that's in 2026, probably April 2026, when we'll, at this point, for the project.
I just got two more questions, should be brief, and then actually want to let Alex Roche from the Community Service Area 45, which you're in, have a couple minutes to speak, and then we'll be free for questions. I think maybe Chief Mendoza, you might be able to answer this one. It would be about any other incidents or safety issues with the battery energy storage systems in Moss Landing.
Good evening. My name is Joel Mendoza. I'm the fire chief of the North County Fire District. We're a small fire district that provides services to 125 square miles out of 3 fire stations with 34 full-time personnel, including our chiefs. And I'd like to apologize. I'm suffering from seasonal allergies, and I'm thinking that it's going to get me right in the middle of my spiel here. So we've had a total of 4 incidents at the battery energy storage facilities over the years. I believe they've been in existence for about 3 to 4 years, and we've had a total of 4. So the first 2 were at the Vistra plant, and those were thermal, well, they weren't thermal runaway events. They were overheating events that occurred on these batteries. And, you know, those were caused from outside influences. We had bearings that failed that created smoke in these rooms, and therefore it triggered fire alarms. It triggered fire suppression systems. And I'm going to say that it was probably poor installation of hoses and fittings that created leaks that then ran into other problems with those particular batteries. So it wasn't really the batteries that caused the incidents. The third incident that we were a part of was the PG&E power plant Tesla battery fire. That was obviously a big event. We had shelter in place ordered. We closed down a highway. And then the last event happened in February. That was back at Vistra again. They had a battery that overheated. And I'll give you an example. I was using this example earlier with the supervisor's office. The storage container there in the corner of the building, that's probably equivalent to one of the racks that they have at this battery facility. Within that rack, they have 22 modules, 11 on each side. The last event that they had was an overheated module at the very bottom of this rack. They had the alarm system and fire suppression system activate, and water was introduced into the system. It cooled it off, so the battery did not burn. However, it did activate the fire suppression system. That's when we got involved. When those systems get activated, there's a 911 dispatch that's initiated, and we respond to these incidents. At the time that we got there, we had no fire. We had the reason or the method that we used for finding the battery that was actually had the issue was through the human interface system, they call basically the computer. We followed that, got us close to the incident, and then we could see water had ran out of one of the batteries. Some of the things that we've done over the years to improve our response has been to ensure that when these battery systems are being built, that those manufacturers and developers adhere to the latest NFPA codes and California Fire Code, which is what we control, right? We're able to control that. And you know, I can honestly sit here in front of this community and let you guys know that those manufacturers are doing everything that we are asking them to. We hire consultants that are much smarter than I am that handle this business for us, and those companies have been nothing but gracious when dealing with our consultants that we're hiring on behalf of the community to deal with them. The other thing that we're doing is we're doing yearly training with these companies. The last training that we did was with PG&E, And I'm going to say that was about 4 to 5 months ago. We went in and we spent a week with PG&E, their staff, their upper management, and we went through a whole hazardous materials training. We went over the response procedures, emergency procedures, command, shelter in place. We tried to cover everything so that we would be prepared for the next emergency. And then we have also done the same thing with Vistra, and we plan to do it again this year. So I think at this point, that's the last update that I have.
Thank you. So the last question I had was an inquiry about the AT&T's plans to abandon its landlines, which has been quite a hot issue. I should state that we really, at the county level, have really zero control over this. This is the California Public Utilities Commission, which handles the public utilities like AT&T, like PG&E. So the Board of Supervisors this last Tuesday actually did send a letter, approved to send a letter out to the CPUC opposing the abandoning of these lines. Santa Cruz has done the same. I know a lot of other counties are stirred up and are very, people everywhere are pretty upset about this. AT&T is backpedaling a little bit, claiming that this is not something that they, that it was a misunderstanding and the bad, faulty information got out. But I think, looking down the line, there's going to be an eventual change on this, but this isn't anything that's going to happen anytime soon from what I hear from them, and hopefully the CPUC will put some brakes onto it, but I want to give you a little update on that. As I say, basically all we can do is just make a request at this point from this level. At this point, I want to kind of let Alex, if you have a few minutes, you want to talk about the community service area. And the community service areas, or you pay them yearly fees to. And, well, Alex will explain what you guys do. If you have a few minutes, you want to go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alex Roush. I'm the president of Oak Hills Neighborhood Association. That's in the old section, obviously. And also I'm on the CSA 45 Advisory Committee. Not working?
But maybe we'll use this microphone over here.
Yes, sir. Or not? Thank you. This better?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. First of all, a little bit about CSAs. CSA means County Service Area. We're number 45, and there's approximately 40 CSAs in the county, most of which are active. And these are, they come under the governance or administration of the special districts of Monterey Public Works, Monterey County Public Works. The advisory committee is appointed by the District 2 supervisor, ours is. We are allowed up to 5 members. We have 4 right now. And what we do is we advise the county special districts portion of anything that's important in our community. And that has to do with roads, streetlights, drains, open spaces. And so what we do, we work with the liaison between the community and Public Works. And what the special districts can do is they can contract with their vendors or a vendor to provide certain services to us. And that is funded by our special assessment taxes. And you'll see a whole list of direct charges and special assessments on your tax bills. So we we collect roughly $18,000 to $20,000 a year in those. And out of those will come certain services. For instance, if we need a tree cut down, the county will contract with one of their vendors and take care of that. Another service is that of CAL FIRE crews. And again, the county will contract with CAL FIRE to provide those crews. And I'd like to give a shout out to CAL FIRE. I don't see any CAL FIRE reps here, but we do have North County Fire represented here. The CAL FIRE crews, we get a crew of up to 18 men with one captain, one truck, and they're Soledad prisoner crews. And I've got to tell you something, these guys put out more work than you can imagine. I usually work with them, and the captain and the crew, and I have to get enough work for, if we have for 5 days, I need to have something lined up for 7 to 8 days worth of work, because almost always they'll overwork my schedule, and then I've got to scramble to try to find something for them to do. But they cost about $300 a day, and that comes out of our tax, and that gives or take depending on what kind of equipment we might have to have them for. We had them in around last Thanksgiving for a week, and we cleaned up 4 of our drainage areas that were really overgrown, plus did some weeding and that sort of thing. If I could get nothing but CAL FIRE crews, we could not only save a lot of money, but we could get a lot of work done and not have to hire goats, for instance. We didn't get the goats last year for various reasons. We are on schedule to get them this year, probably in the next couple of months. But I've been told that we're going to be limited in how much we can use them. We have typically 30-plus acres to mow, weeds to take care of every year. And so if we're limited to 15 acres, which we have heard so far, that means we have to make up the difference out of our association funds. Now, it makes it kind of difficult to budget our association funds when I'm not sure how much we're going to have to spend. If we don't get the goats for all 30 acres, that means that we have to provide mowing for those remainder. And last year, because we didn't get the goats, we had our landscaper cut about, I think it was about 8,000 feet, 10 foot wide behind all the houses bordering our open spaces. And that was about the best we could do. That cost about $5,000. But you can see where the costs come in, that if the county can't make up the difference, then we have to, our association. Now, the West HOA do not pay into open space taxes. Just the old section does. So they usually have a standing invitation to CAL FIRE to do their weeding once a year. Now,
Alex, you need a few more minutes there? Or?
just a little bit.
Okay, sure, go right ahead.
And for the most part, we've had really good cooperation with special districts and public works. However, the last couple of years, that cooperation has diminished quite a bit. And I know I'm bitching. But it's almost like there's a filter between our community, our committee and our community, between us and the county public works. It's like the information that we need or we ask for either doesn't get to them or their answer doesn't get back to us. And we know they're very busy. If you can see if they've got, these are some of the CSAs that they have to work with. And we know they have to juggle some hot potatoes. And we may not be big potatoes, but we're potatoes. And we'd like to have some more attention. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is really get questions from everybody. We're going to move this microphone here to the back. If anybody who has questions would like to kind of line up, yeah, like right there, and like to try to keep your, what you're going to talk about to a question or a follow-up on that subject. If there's somebody behind you, please let them come in so everybody can take part of that. I know, ma'am, you had a question, so I would like you to go up there first, if you would like to. Okay. Yeah, could you, we're testing this out with a little bit of a recording for our tech people from the county, but, and thank you for your
working?
patience.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was wondering, the sign at or the speed, I don't know what they're called, those speed things at Castroville Boulevard that says 45, is that still needed there? And can it be moved? I don't know who if it's Caltrans or Monterey County or whoever it is, can it be moved to maybe the 156 at closer to 101, so you can get the cars coming down from 101 to slow down, because they seem to speed up as they approach Oak Hills, the eastern entrance of Oak Hills. And that is, well, kind of dangerous going out. The cars seem to be getting faster. And I've lived out here for 30 years, and the cars coming from 101 seem to be getting faster now as all the Teslas and everything keep coming into Monterey County. So I don't know, that's a suggestion to maybe slow the traffic further out from Oak Hills so we can feel like we can get across or get onto 156.
Sure. Randy, is that something you feel you can address on that one? And I want to say, I apologize for the cameras kind of obscuring us here. This is.
No problem.
We have the best tech people in the
Thanks,
world
Captain.
down here, and Alex and Quinn, and they're testing out some things, so we haven't quite got this whole system down here today.
So Public Works, I believe we understand that you're referring to the dynamic speed feedback sign there on the westerly approach or westbound direction that is closer to the Oak Hills driveway than it is to 101. So it sounds like you want us to see if we can move that sign from there closer to the off-ramp from 101. Is that correct?
Well, the sign that's at Castroville Boulevard, whatever that one, it says 45 miles an hour at Castroville Boulevard, right here. The construction, whatever, I don't know what you call them, the speed,
Oh.
the flashing speed thing. If it could be closer to 101 as opposed to Castroville Boulevard, because it looks like they finished the work at Castroville Boulevard, that little overpass thing.
More by 156 and Meridian.
Right, if you can get the traffic to slow down.
It would be 156 coming off of 101 where Meridian breaks off.
Right.
Maybe there's that dirt turnout on the right-hand side, that big dirt area.
Well, something there to slow the traffic down, because they seem to be going fast. They're coming down a hill, they're going uphill, and then they come down a hill, and they're coming fast at the first Oak Hills exit closest to 101.
As a point of clarification, did that sign have an orange diamond behind it? Yes,
I
okay.
don't-
We will need to talk with Caltrans about that because the construction work that's occurring out there is a Caltrans project. So we'll be happy to go talk to Caltrans about that.
Okay. And then I was wondering if the Monterey County budget deficit's going to affect the roads construction. Will I ever see a road construction in my lifetime?
So actually, I'm going to I'll let Randy get in and address some of that one there, but as he's pointed out, we have 1,257 1,257 miles of roads in the county. This county, for the last 50 years, every time we run into deficit problems, what gets cut? Roads. And that is, I'm really, Randy's heard this story 100 times. I know back in 1976, half of Elkhorn Road from about Hidden Valley over towards where the fire station is, towards Hall Road, was paved. The next year, that part going towards the Elkhorn Slough Foundation and Walker Valley was supposed to be paved. There were some financial difficulties in, the budget was cut. That road has never been paved in its almost 50 years. And it's really a priority of mine just to see that get done in itself. But regarding on the roads, the road fund we have, it's inadequate for bringing everything up quickly. There's a plan that Randy has put forth here to the county to try to address this. It's going to take some years to do it. He can explain onto that. But the other thing is in the last year, we've started to add several $1 million annually to that, what's going to happen. There's this tax called, an abbreviation called the TOT tax. It's called the Transit Occupancy Tax. Been around for about 60-some years. What it does is that when visitors come in and they stay at hotels, they get charged. That money comes back, and traditionally 25% of that has come back into the roads. Some years ago, it was cut down to, what was it, 15% of it?
14-ish.
14-ish. When I came in office last year, I wanted to have that brought back up 25%. I was able to get the Board of Supervisors to agree that we're going to do it 25%. And as we come into this budget, it's set down there at 25%. Of course, we're running into some financial problems, but I am hopeful that I believe we still have 3 votes at least on the Board of Supervisors to hold that. I'm not budgeting onto it. It's I'm going to do what I can to make that. It brings in a few $1 million more a year. It helps us go through and begin to address. And I'm going to let Randy get into more specifics or what he can add to what I'm saying.
Supervisor Church, you are a very difficult act to follow. But to add a little more detail to the somewhat general question of when will roads get reconstructed or repaved, it's all a matter of prioritizing with what funding that we have. County does that every year through what's called the 5-year capital improvement plan process. And a subset of that entire plan, which looks at the county's buildings, county's parks, also looks at the county's roads. We prioritize them based on the condition, traffic volumes, consistency with the general plan, and some other factors, because we're trying to make the dollars benefit the most people with the limited funding that we currently have. Speaking of funding for just a moment and then going back to the plan, the funding that we have historically had prior to Supervisor Church advocating for giving more dollars to the roads, historically, for the last 3 years, we've been somewhere around 30-ish, $35 million per year. Right off the top of that, somewhere around 11 to 12 million, and some years 13 million, is just to pay for the basic services of our county road crews. Staff are expensive, but it is a necessary thing in order to keep potholes patched, tree limbs removed, and then when we have historic storms like we had last year, those are the same hardworking people who are out there late at night clearing the debris off the road, clearing the landslide, clearing all of the silt that came across the road, like Elkhorn Road, off of there so that you all can enjoy a safe road to drive across. The balance of that, which is roughly that $20 million, goes to a combination of road repaving projects, but it also needs to go to bridges because the county has 175 bridges in various states of repair. And then on top of that, when we talk about traffic safety, any traffic safety project also has to come out of that same set of limited funds. We were fortunate, to digress for just a moment, we were fortunate that we won a grant for constructing a traffic safety roundabout at the intersection of San Miguel Canyon and Castro Boulevard. But there is still a local match component that has to cover the balance of what the grant doesn't cover. So I'm mentioning that only for purposes that there's traffic projects that are out there and they also compete for those same set of funds. But that doesn't get back to roads that you have in front of your homes. So with Supervisor Church's advocacy and as staff work through some other plans, we do have a future plan that we've worked out, actually not so much future, a plan that we already have in process. And in the future, we hope and strive to have that additional transient occupancy tax come to support this plan. We call it the Local Road Rehabilitation Program version 2.0. A lot of words, but what that means is that we're going to set aside that money and use that for treating the roads in the communities. Places like Aromas, places like Spreckles, places like Bradley, San Ardo, all places of which they would not rank against trying to prioritize our money against repaving San Miguel Canyon Road or Castroville Boulevard. This is meant to be done in tandem with those other road projects, the bridge projects, and the suite of traffic safety projects that we hope to put into there. So we're very optimistic. We're very appreciative of Supervisor Church's advocacy as well as the other supervisors to get more of that limited general fund money back to the roads so we can do more road repaving and road treatments. But it is a long haul. And what I would encourage you to do in terms of the road plan is to go to our website, or you can do a Google search and look for the words 5-year capital improvement plan, and you'll see what we have designated for the next 5-year horizon. And in order to be clear with everyone, it is a plan. And so what we offer is some caution as you review it. The first year, we know absolutely we're going to do that. Years 2 and 3 out of a 5-year plan, we're confident we're going to be doing those, and we've already started preliminary work on them. It's the years 4 and 5 where something could happen that we didn't plan on, and we have to now change gears and change our priorities, such as the torrential storms we had in January 2023 and March of 2023, and the Palmer River levee breaking and flooding the areas. So there's a lot of, when emergencies occur, we do prioritize those first for public safety and public health. But rest assured, we do prioritize and plan out our road projects, our bridge projects, and the other projects at the county in methodical means. Again, thank you very much, Supervisor Church.
Yes, please.
Arthur McLaughlin. In 1988, as a 10-year resident, I was invited to a meeting at North Monterey County High School. And at that meeting, there were these wonderful illustrated plans, and they showed a 4-lane highway. It didn't happen, even though in those days it was promised. And that was the beginning of our traffic problem, of egress and entrance into or out of Oak Hills. Today, I am lucky. I have a part electric vehicle. You know, you put the pedal to the metal in an electric vehicle and it takes off. That's how I get out sometimes. Taking off when I've got maybe 30 feet of clearance to get into a traffic. That's a potential killer for the person on the highway and me. I have chaired over 3 committees, or co-chaired one of those, with TAMC and other, and the Board of Supervisors and other groups. And we've looked at many, many different plans. We've made recommendations. And everything has come back, well, that was good, but there's always the but.
Art?
Well, what I'm saying the but is there's no money, or the money is being used here, there, and elsewhere. So my question is, why can't we simplify things and get beyond the statement, we can't do that? Like put an overpass or underpass into one of the entrances of Oak Hills. I mean, if it's in the southern entrance, I'll gladly drive that additional quarter of a mile to be safe.
I can,
Why can't we,
I could probably, you want to, okay.
you let me
Start
just,
trying to wrap it up, please.
okay. Why can't we come up with some plan? Now, it was promised to us by a governor. Governor Schwarzenegger came. He came to Prunedale, to the park and ride, and he stood there and said, if you pass Propositions A through D, we'll get the money to fix 156, and I promise you, we will build it. And of course, that failed. The proposition passed, and the analysis of who voted for it showed North County was way up there. But and Todd's predecessor went to Albany to see about those funds, and they weren't coming. Oh, I said Albany, sorry. I went back to my,
That's fine. I understand your frustration. It goes back long before 1988. It was 1960s, something was supposed to have been done. So I don't know anybody, question wasn't really too specific. I don't know if either one of you feel that you can really answer anything on this. Outside, there are always plans that are being down, and what's happened with this, with the plans that were going to be done here with, referred to as a roundabout, is now even stagnating. So we get real close to something, and it just seems like it just falters, and it's such a big thing. It's a little bit out of my hand. It takes a lot of cooperation, but I don't know if nobody has anybody has anything to answer, but or else I'll okay.
Thank you. All I can say is we have these, I mean, I hear your frustration. I've been part of this, and I'm frustrated also. It's one of the most difficult things about our job is not being able to deliver the projects that we're trying to deliver. And we have to, at some point, step back and reassess what the real environment is, and then try again. And that's where we're at right now with 156. So we're going to deliver this first segment with the Castro Boulevard interchange, but the rest of it, we need to step back and in the current financial climate, the environmental climate, figure out what we can do and what we can get done.
And hopefully some lanes to accelerate can be one of those steps along the way. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Hayashi. I'm a resident of Oak Hills. I've lived there for well over 30 years. I'm basically a native from this area, grew up in Castroville. So I've traveled 156 for about 50-odd years or more. Okay, I'm 67 now. When I moved into that community, I was in my mid-30s. The problem now is, if you look at the residents, a lot of them are older. Their reaction time is slower. The cars are coming faster. They don't slow down. They actually speed up. I understand the money is not there. It is frustrating when you live in that beautiful community and you can't get out. It is frustrating as an older person to go out and know that every time you go out on that freeway, you're taking your life or somebody else's in your hands, because that's what the traffic is like now. I challenge all of you to start thinking outside of the box. Don't look at your long-term plans. Figure out how the residents can get out of where we live safely. There has to be some way. I'm sure there are volunteers in our community that would be glad to brainstorm or figure out some out-of-the-box way to do it. You can't even merge sometimes when you are coming out of Cathedral Drive and you're going to the west. If you go into that merging lane, there are cars that will come out behind you, so they force you to move up. And I don't know, the signs, who the signs belong to, if they belong to the state, to the county, to Caltrans, to Monterey County. All I know is that we need more signs out there that can educate people as to how to properly merge, especially if we don't have a merging lane. So I don't really have a specific question other than a challenge to all of you. And I do want to thank you for the work you do. I know that you work hard at your jobs, just the way I did before I retired a few years ago. But the one thing I learned as a nurse is you always have to look at the situation you have right in front of you and think out of the box. How are we going to fix this problem? The other question I have is either for our sheriffs or our CHPs. My husband walks our dog every single day. And what we see when the lines are really long, we have all kinds of people coming into our community because they're trying to bypass the lines. If we start having community events, like we're going to do an Easter egg hunt thing, we do 4th of July, could you please have your representatives show up and maybe, mingle with some of our residents that show up so we can start talking about, how to get more patrols out there? I mean, if you give the residents tickets because they're doing something wrong, then they deserve that ticket, right? So again, thank you. Please start thinking of some other way that we can get out of our community.
Thank you.
Just to answer that question briefly, we do have a crime prevention / social media person now with the sheriff's office, and I will contact you after this and give you her contact information. She can set it up anything if you want representatives at your event.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, my name is William Eldridge. Actually, I live Monte del Lago. We don't even have the merging lanes. We have to do the same thing you're talking about, finding a way through that traffic. And yeah, it's horrible. We've been living there since 1998. I've seen two dead bodies on that road in that time. I've had Caltrans tell me, well, we can't slow it down. Slowing it down would cause even more accidents. I thought that was absurd. But one question, can TAMC please get the real truth out there? I see KSBW saying we're going to have a roundabout for Castroville Boulevard. Those roundabouts are going to be at the top of the overtrack from what the plans I've seen online. The other thing is, why can't we do something about PG&E? Suddenly, it's going to cost us so much more to do this project. And they should be fined or something done when they turn around and say, oh, we're going to add $28 million to a project. And,
And, again, the frustration with PG&E is much like it is with AT&T. The state controls them. I mean, even Chief Mendoza, in a conversation I had with him last year, he had a tree that he felt should be removed by a PG&E line. He can't order them to do it. They do what they want to do. So it's a real challenge. I do understand.
as
And
for, to kind of what she was talking, if you get on like Google Maps, there is one of the roads from Oak Hills that hooks up to a field that would then hook to streets that go into Meridian. You have a way out if you think out of the box.
thank you.
Sir, I had a question for you. You live in Monte del Lago?
Yeah.
Is that side exit available to you so you can go out through Castroville Boulevard and use the lights?
We do both. Sometimes it's dangerous to go out past
Castroville Boulevard as it is to go out 156. But it is an option for the residents there.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
Mitchell, 36 years around here dodging cars. First off, most of us, I believe here, want you to succeed, all of you in your jobs and what you do. And thank you, Mr. Tuck, about saying about reappraisal. When a project jumps by 3 times, yes, it needs to be reassessed, including maybe walking away from a roundabout. Not walking away, about trying to get this flow along this transportation line to finally be improved to get to the peninsula and back. So I'm not saying stop everything, saying that maybe a redesign, and would you please consider some of the following facts and report back to the supervisor that you have a feasible and fundable plan, maybe an alternative to where you're at. For example, in regards to roundabouts, yes, we have seen very successful ones in the county. One is near Pebble Beach, where the flow of traffic, where the construction design and why it works is the roundabout has been lifted built at a higher altitude, so you have free flow of traffic along the 4-lane highway below. It works great. I've never heard anybody complain about it. Now, I don't know in the last few months if you've taken the time or had the opportunity to try to go over Pacheco Pass. In the process of doing that, you'll find out that over at Hollister, there's been a big roundabout built. It's a north-south crossing road of an east-west road. The north-south runs from Hollister to Gilroy, has heavy commuter traffic. I've been through that intersection, that roundabout 3 times, 2 at night, 1 in the day. Every time, it's exciting. It's so exciting that in the, about 3 weeks ago, there was a picture of a car smaller than a semi engaging each other. So, would you please have some of your people gain safety and experience by going over there, safety information, and look at how that's working, because it's going to be, I believe, smaller than the proposed design for out here. And with more traffic here, I'm worried that, yeah, you could build it, but it might not work. And so please consider maybe an alternative. If you walked away from the roundabout, that we do have a side road for maneuvering around the flowing traffic to the peninsula, and maybe it's a raised overpass that comes into Castroville, no roundabout, it's a raised road, and the locals can go under. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to respond to that at all? Yeah. Every intersection is unique. In some places, signal's appropriate, sometimes a roundabout's appropriate, sometimes stop signs are appropriate. So every point that 2 roads intersect each other, you have to decide what's the best way to treat that crossing. And the new roundabout that has been built by Hollister is where 2 highways intersect, and it's an intersection. So they're not separated, grade separated, like an interchange is. So the roundabout project, it's kind of funny that we keep calling it the roundabout project, Castro Boulevard, because it's not really a roundabout project, it just happens to have roundabouts in it. It's an interchange project separating 156 so folks on 156 don't have to stop. And instead of traffic lights, it's got roundabouts on controlling the local traffic entering and exiting the interchange. It also has a 3rd roundabout where Castro Boulevard currently is, and it would connect. And there are some features about it that I really like. And one of it is it will provide some traffic calming on Castro Boulevard, very close to where the high school is. And as people go into that entrance into Monte del Lago, I think you're going to have a lot of benefits for traffic calming. And the nice thing about roundabouts is people are forced to slow down to go through them, but they don't have to stop. So their actual travel time is usually less than when they're stopping and going through signals. So you kind of connected the project we have at Castro Boulevard with the project that's built in Hollister, and they're vastly different. And so I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Grace Cooper, and I am a resident over in Oak Hills. And there's an issue that we are having, those of us who live on the west side off of the estuary area, and that is the use of ATVs in that open space estuary area. My concern is with the dry brush in there, is the risk of forest fire. And also, if there were something like that to occur, given the current infrastructure of our highways in that area, how would we all get out, for one? That's a big concern. So it's kind of that's just the, I'm throwing that in there. But my biggest concern is, as I'm hearing over and over on platforms such as Facebook and Nextdoor, that many of our Prunedale neighbors are being, their fire insurance is being canceled. So, we live with the risk of fire all the time around this area. We know that. Currently, we are not considered to be in a fire endemic area in the Oak Hills area. But if something were to happen in that estuary, it would be a nightmare. It is thick brush, and there's constant trespassing with ATVs on a near daily basis in that estuary. It is very disturbing when you're on your back patio or even in your house trying to watch TV when all you can hear is two strokes. I have called in several times, and some really nice sheriffs have gone out there and attempted to make contact with folks, and on a couple of occasions they have. I was informed by someone in the sheriff's department that that area is owned by American Water, I believe, Cal American Water. So anyway, my whole thing is what can we do to better protect that area, because it is a wetlands area, and if it is indeed owned by Cal American, what can we do to keep people out of that area? I have personally reached out to them, and I'm trying to work my way up the chain to get them to pay attention to this. But I'm not even sure where it's being accessed from, but it is disturbing to my peace. It is a concern with fire. And what can you do in addition to kind of help keep people out of that area so we don't have an accident and we don't have somebody light the place up?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. So first, do we know, anybody here know who might actually own that property over there? Yes. Cal-Am does it. For the sewer, okay. So we don't really have anybody here that can address that, obviously, but could I ask you, I'd like to take a look at this. If you could, Mike, I have two staff members here. I'm going to introduce them right now. Marilyn Vieira, who's my chief of staff, and Leonie Gray, who's a policy analyst. If you get in contact with them, I would like to come out and take a look at this myself and see the issue. Obviously, if there's some issues with fire, Chief Mendoza's and North County Fire is going to be very concerned about that onto there. And I'm not really familiar with it, so I can't really quite address it, but I definitely would like to meet with you and take a look at that.
Sure. And incidentally, I was informed by the last contact I made with the sheriff's department that because I am not necessarily the victim in that I'm not the owner or custodian of that property, that they cannot pursue prosecution of anyone unless Cal American Water makes a complaint or seeks help. I can call and complain that there's noise. They can, maybe try to make contact, but that Cal American Water really needs to bring this issue to them to give them some teeth in it, in prosecuting people for going back there. It's, but for many reasons, there's concerns. I mean, not just the fire, but the whole ecosystem back there. We don't want people ripping it up. We choose to live in Oak Hills because we get the best of both worlds. We have a rural community, but we're still in, a county-served area. So
Let Commander Manuelos address.
So it's,
Sure.
the analogy, we're kind of dealing with the same thing with an area outside of Salinas near Costco about a homeless encampment. And there's 4 or 5 different parcels in the back, and it's a swamp right now. Part of the owners are owned by an LCC. The issue is that we have to get what the people around the neighborhood are doing. There's a school, there's an apartment complex, there's a waste management area. They're getting their legal people involved, and this was suggested by Summit County, is to write letters to the owner, telling them that they need to post up signs, they need to do something about it. We have to have signage saying you cannot trespass. There needs to be some type of barrier showing that they cannot do it. Because if without that, these people are going to say, well, I didn't see any signage. There's nothing here. And they're going to continue it. You have to put the pressure on, right, either from Oak Hills, your association, to the landowner via a legal form. And then hopefully they can come out. And it has worked now. These people that own this property are coming around and putting chain link fences, putting up signage and stuff like that. That gives us teeth
Right.
to do something.
Got it.
Without that, our hands are a little bit tied. We can go out there and attempt to contact them. We can see if they have a license or it's a legit, it's not a stolen ATV or whatever we can do to do it, but
Right.
they'll be back.
Yeah, they are every day.
But please continue to call.
Okay.
Please don't hesitate to call.
And I have one last thing. I'm sorry, and I'll be brief. And perhaps this was covered. We were late coming in. I apologize. But
I think Chief Mendoza might want to respond to your question. there,
Yes.
too, on this first one.
thank you.
Right. So we have some resources that may be able to help with this particular issue, in particular the fire hazard. I completely agree with Commander Banuelos regarding, posting signs for no entry. But I think what we can do, and we can be part of your site visit when you do go out there, we can assess for the actual fire danger. And, there's a lot of laws in the books that we can enforce. And so what we'll do is we'll do a walkthrough of the property. We'll meet with the property owner, and if we identify something that we can enforce, then we'll certainly start there. We realize that those areas are important habitat areas, and a lot of that stuff is protected. But they have environmentalists that they contract with, that they can let them know what it is they can and cannot cut. And so if there's anything there that we can do, we'll certainly do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then the other question I had, and again, if I missed this, I apologize. I can just tell me to go to the minutes when this is done, is the housing that was to be built where the roundabout is going. I believe it was through Chispa.
Chispa's housing, yes.
Right. Is that still on track for starting soon?
Yes, it is, from what I hear.
And when is the start date?
Is it, do you know, Marilyn? I think it's in the next couple of years, if I'm correct on that.
Next couple of years.
Yeah, I believe it's the
Yeah.
next couple of years, but I don't have a specific date, and of course, always can be delays, but.
Right. And my concern with that is also too, is, that whole area is swampland. It is on extreme expansive soil, and any of us who have had issues with that know what kind of havoc that wreaks on structures. So,
Well, I believe they've gone through all their permits, and the coastal commission, the commissions, they've dealt with everything, so they've got the okay to go ahead at that point.
yeah. So they've done soil studies and all of the.
Yes, I
yeah.
believe all that's been done.
And where do you get the information for the results of those soil studies?
If you want to get information onto that, again, contact my office with specific,
Okay.
what you're asking for, we'll provide that
Okay.
to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. There are some things that we can actually do, it's those long-term transportation ones which are the real top. But as it comes in this case, if there is a problem around, I'm always very happy to do a site visit. I do these several a week, and, some problems need that to look at, like on this particular one. So I want to encourage anybody that does, have a problem, please to reach out to my office. We'll do, the best we can on trying to resolve it. Is there anybody else that has a question up here? I don't see anybody at this point. We have a few minutes to go here. Okay, I don't see any, yes, Art,
Just a comment to everyone at the table. Thank you for all your efforts and what you're doing, and we understand the frustration.
I'm just, yes, Alex, you have some things to,
Sheriff's Department, can we borrow some spike strips?
We borrowed them from,
You might find one on the side of the road somewhere, right around. I don't know how it got there.
so, I just, Captain, you want to give out your number again?
Yeah, so in all seriousness, thank you so much for all the input. It really means a lot to me when people actually come up to a group and not just complain like on an online forum or something, "Hey, you don't do this," but you actually show up to a town hall. You're taking time out of your day, your night to express your concerns. You're taxpayers. You deserve these concerns addressed. And what I can say is I got to Monterey about a year ago as the commander came down from Susanville. I was retired on duty for a while, and then now I actually have to work. Yeah, and I met Supervisor Glenn Church and immediately developed a very good relationship with him. And I can see that he cares about your community. I'm telling you that straight. He does care about your community. And I really appreciate this interaction, being able to do that. So we're kicking off this roadshow for the next, 9 months, 10 months that we'll do. So this is great. As far as special events that you have, please call 770-8000. Just say, hey, we're having an Easter, something. Please, not everybody's birthday. Don't need that. But, a big Easter event or some type of community event, just call or post on our messenger, right? I'm kind of sad because I haven't seen any followers yet from here. So I'm tracking, and nobody has followed the Facebook page, but I'm just saying. So, throw it up on there, and that way I can kind of say, okay, hey, LT, my lieutenant's back there. Why don't you deploy some people out to Oak Knolls during this Easter deal, right? Because we're not going to know what you're doing unless you tell us. So I appreciate the interaction, and we'll do the best that we can.
I just have one other question.
Oh, yes, please.
Is there any way that Monterey County, San Benito County, Santa Clara County appeal to the state or whoever controls the roads? Because, the weekends, it's backed up to Morgan Hill. So it's affecting several counties, the bottleneck of Monterey County. Then it's affecting, I would, business owners, I would think you'd be upset. You're missing all that money coming in as they're sitting on the 101 for hours on the major weekends. So can't someone from California do something about the roads? It's like we're the only county. We have this major traffic and we don't get anything. And you go to LA and the roads are always being redone and doing all kinds of things. You'd think between the three counties that we could come up with something so people don't have to sit. They can make it to Monterey County and give us some money.
I wish, but it was surprising to me is I sit on the TAMSI board, and early on when this was being discussed last year on the interchange here, one of the council members from over in Monterey, much to my surprise, started speaking about how important it was to get this project done because, for the tourism over there, it was speaking like, oh, this is the biggest project we need to do. And I was saying, come live in Oak Hills and you'll really understand how important it is. But it's, there is pretty widespread support in Monterey County for this. Really a problem we're having is PG&E, which we have little control over, and then just the state it moves like a sloth. Sorry, nothing in. Sure, thank you. So I want to thank everybody just for coming, and we'll be back next year, and I hope to see you there then. And anytime in the meantime, you have any problems, please reach out to my office.
Thank you.